Hey guys, if you don't know me, my name is Brio. I'm making this video today to basically go through the one of the first scenes I've written for my script. Uh, I've written quite a few projects before, but they've mostly been on Google Docs. This is my first time actually using a screenwriting program, Studio Binder. And yeah, my aim with this video today is one, to explain what this scene is, because I think just reading through it, it's badly written. I'll admit that. You don't really, and it's sort of hard to understand what everything means and how I want it to look and stuff like that. So that's one thing I'm doing, and the other thing is I'm gonna be posting this on a lot of like Facebook groups, on in different areas, and I'm just, if you like the stuff that I talk about here, and you want to get in contact with me, just message me on Facebook or YouTube. If you're interested in screenwriting or making movies or just art in general, because it sounds arrogant and cocky or whatever, because it is, but I want to make the greatest films in the world, however dumb that might sound. But I go by the what do you call it, philosophy, I guess you could say, of aim for perfection and achieve excellence. So yeah, so if you really passionate about film, whatever that might entail, please contact me. I'd love to talk about film with you. I'm very passionate about this stuff, so we'll see where we can go from there. Anyway, let's get right into it. So what this scene is I'll give a bit of context, is basically it's a 18-year-old guy who, I think, either he's society, when they turn 18, they basically go on a pilgrimage, or they do something that matures them from, before this point you're considered a boy, after this point you're considered a man. And if you look through a lot of sorry, I keep bumping the mic, a lot of old mythologies and societies, you can see a lot of these. Whoops, I had a timer. A lot of these, they call it initiation ceremonies, where, before they're a boy and after they're a man. And, this is trying to make my own sort of version of that by your side. So on the left here is basically something I wrote out with this, but I'm choosing to freeform instead, so I'll just look here for points. Oops. So it starts off: following our protagonist walking through multiple curtains of beads into a dimly lit room. So I later in the story, I want him to enter a forest, and in the forest, that's where he, encounters the unknown and fights with it and assimilates it. So I basically want this opening shot. I'm not sure if this will be my opening shot, but that's how I'm treating it now. This obviously could change. This may not even make it into the film. But I want the opening shot to look like he's basically walking through like a lot of trees. As he's crossing that threshold into the like the magic shop or the fortune teller's room. I want that to mirror him walking through into the forest. So into a dimly lit room. So the room is circular, covered with a blue-black curtain going around the whole room, making it so you can't see what is behind it. So I want the room to basically represent or symbolize the universe. So that's why it's a circle, because circles, pi goes on forever. Blue-black, the night sky is blue-black. I'm thinking, I haven't added in here, but there might be, star patterns or something like that on the wall, on the curtain. And a curtain, so you can't see what's behind the curtain. So it's sort of like the room. You can't see all of the room, and because of that, your imagination fills in what's in the unknown, and your unconscious will live. It's sort of like, because you can't see the whole room, your unconscious fills in what you can't see, the same way our unconscious fills in what we can't see in the universe. That's a sort of Not a perfect way of explaining it, but I think if you're a big fan of Joseph Campbell or Carl Jung, you'll sort of understand where I'm getting all this symbolism from. Yeah. The center of the room has a smaller box-shaped room that has a table and 2 chairs. So this box room is meant to represent Earth, and it's where the tarot is read. And if you don't know what tarot is, it's basically a form of, you could say, divination or fortune telling, where they use cards to predict your future. I wanted this to be like a meeting with a wise old man archetype. Of course, if you read on it's with a old woman, but and I wanted it to be a sort of a fortune teller scene. I went through a lot of scenes. I did about 15 different ideas for what this opening scene could be, even though this may not be the opening. And this was the one that was my favorite. So the table has a maze-like pattern on it with a picture of the sun in the middle and 6 empty spaces for cards. So if you see, I'll Google it, labyrinth. This is sort of the type of image I want. Minotaur. Is this? I forgot his name. There's an old myth about a minotaur that lives in a labyrinth. But yeah, I want it to be something like this, but on the table and not circular. The reason being is I want that table to sort of represent the story as well. So there's a maze, and basically the sun in the middle. The sun represents consciousness, because when the sun is up and it's daytime, that's when we're awake usually. So you look at a lot of old mythologies and they'll say they'll use the sun as consciousness because that's when they're awake, and it illuminates the world, brings light and makes it so we can see it and understand it, bringing it in. So if it's dark and we don't know what's there, our unconscious lives there because it's predicting what could be there. But when it's light, we understand it and it's conscious. And then of course when it's nighttime, that's when we're unconscious, because we're asleep, and then also it's dark and unconscious lives in the darkness. So the sun represents high consciousness. So it's sort of like the idea is he has to go through a maze to reach high consciousness. He has to go through trials and tribulations to achieve high consciousness. But there's also those 6 card slots. So basically what the fortune teller is doing is divination, where they're getting the higher powers of the universe, and it's so the universe is around this box-shaped room, and so they're getting a bit of that and concentrating that power, and then using that power to put down the cards, and the cards basically show what the protagonist needs to do and overcome and assimilate, what archetypes to reach the middle of the sun, to become higher in consciousness. This sounds very woo-woo and wishy-washy, but the idea is basically that in order to grow as humans, we need to go out into the unknown. So basically just areas of the world we don't know, we need to go into conflict with it, and once we go into conflict with it, an old part of us dies and a new part of us, we gain a new part, hopefully better. That's not always the case. Sometimes we just die. Sometimes we just lose and we don't gain anything. But the idea is we want to lose something that's bad about ourselves, let that die, sacrifice it, and then gain something new. And that's basically and then the idea of the archetypes is this is a much more stranger concept, but if you know Carl Jung, you probably know it. You got, the unconscious, which is infinite. It goes even bigger than this. And then we got the conscious in here. And so conscious is everything we know. Then unconscious is like, okay, what did I have for breakfast yesterday? Although we're not thinking about that now, it's out here. And then there's maybe a lot more repressed memories out here that we don't really think about. Maybe something bad happened, or something happened 10 years ago, you don't really remember it, but if it was prompted. And then there's this part of the mind called the collective unconscious, which is out here, and these have the archetypes in them. And the archetypes is like the hero archetype, so the one that goes out into the unknown and faces the dragon. And so this is this archetype, and then there's the magician archetype, and then who is like very inventive and stuff. I don't know my archetypes, but you get the idea. And this collective unconscious idea is basically everyone has this in them, but not everyone accesses it. And the idea is, in like a hero's journey, is the hero goes out, or like in a story, the hero goes out and he finds these archetypes and he battles with them, and then he learns to assimilate them into himself, and it's like gains powers. Yeah, watch Jordan Peterson. I know he has some pretty whack political views, but he's really good at explaining this. I'm not. But yeah, that's the idea. So he needs to assimilate the collective unconscious archetypes. Okay. So the roof is a glass dome, and you can clearly see the starry night sky. So this is, again, with the idea of the universe. This is more to represent heaven. I got this idea. I was listening to symbolism about cathedrals, and a cathedral, not all of them, but some of them will have a glass dome, and then, not a glass dome, a dome, and then a box shape, or, yeah, box shape below. And basically what the box represents is Earth, and that's why I did, the small box shaped room in the middle is Earth of the cathedral, and the dome represents heaven, and it's basically this point at which heaven and Earth meet. And I did a glass dome because you can see through it, and it's basically at nighttime when they're doing this, and so they'll be able to see the stars, and then the stars, sort of represent heaven. Or there's this, I read this in the Kybalion. I'm not an occultist, but I've been reading about occultism to study for this scene. And the idea is, okay, there's the idea that not the universe, but they call it the all, like that life is infinite. And so the universe is just a small part of life, but maybe there's infinite universes, but that there's this idea of the all, which is this infinite thing that has everything within it. And this has the highest experiences that we could not even conceive of, and lowest experiences we could conceive of. There's also a good quote. I wrote it down in here somewhere. It talks about story, but basically what I'm getting to with that is that we look up into the stars, and we can sort of, our unconscious fills in, we see the potential for, the infinite, good experience and infinite bad experience. And I think this sums it up nicely. Go F3, Joseph Campbell. Why doesn't it do it? Yeah, okay. So the quote is, "It will always be the one shape-shifting yet marvelous story that we find, together with a challenge persistence of more remaining to be experienced than ever will be known or told." So it's talking about story there, but it's more about the unconscious, where we look up into the stars and we see this challenging persistence of more to be ever experienced or told. So yeah, I hope I explained that right. Might not have. Comment down below if I didn't. Yeah, so the roof is glass dome. You can see starry night sky, and that's what the old woman uses to read to find out what the protagonist needs. Old woman, hello, have a seat. Oh yeah, an old woman sits on one of the chairs, staring without blinking at our protagonist. Hello, have a seat. I wanted to edit this and say, hello, boy, have a seat, because, you know, back to this idea of the initiation, is it ceremony? Whatever, initiation ritual. You know, hello, boy, he's starting out as a boy, and then afterwards he will be a man after he goes through this pilgrimage. Hello, boy, have a seat. Protagonist walks over and sits down. The old woman's eyes follow him still without blinking. I don't know. This doesn't really have to be like this. I just thought might as well make her seem a little creepy, or maybe have the idea being she has such thorough concentration. She's taking this very seriously, or she's in an altered state where she's, you know, conversing with the gods. I think I like that one the best, altered state, conversing with the gods. That's why she's, you know, looks a bit creepy. You turned 18 3 days ago, is that correct? Yes, like I said before, you know, there's like tribes in Africa where they basically, as soon as you turn 18, or it might be 13, they basically give you a spear and you're told to go out and kill a lion just with that spear. Like that's definitely the person you are before you do that is going to be a completely different person than the person who will be after you do that. The same idea as this. Protagonist, yes. Old woman, you don't have a father, is that correct? Protagonist, yes, he passed away. The idea behind this is, as you'll see later on, you must go into the forest to find your father. It's like the hero has to gain the archetypes of the father, of the hero, of the independent man that looks after whatever, being his father. He has to take the place that of his father and no longer be a son, but be the father. That's the journey he's going on. And I don't know, I want to explore it a bit more. My dad passed away quite recently, and you know, I sort of want this to be, I view this this story I'm creating as my own sort of pilgrimage. Which, you know, this all could fail, but whatever. That it is what it is. So sort of, I want to explore that a lot more. The old woman opens up the roof of the small room, revealing the night sky. Again, it's sort of like they're in Earth, and then she opens the roof, and they see the night sky, and so that's when heaven and Earth, not collide, but meet. That's the word. Look up. How many bright stars do you see in the first quadrant? 6. This is all random. I was watching tarot readings by Alejandro Jodorowsky, one of the greatest filmmakers alive. I'm reading his book right now. It's completely fascinating, but I will be honest, I do not know too much about the tarot. I used to think it was just occultism nonsense, which I sort of do still think, but I think it's quite beautiful at the same time. So, yeah, this doesn't mean anything at the moment, but it sort of means something like I explained before. He's looking up into the sky, into heaven. He's conversing with it, and then it is giving them the answers. And then the old woman starts putting cards down in a certain order. So usually what they do is, you know, he'll say 6 or 4 or 10, and then they'll count the cards out. Okay, card number 6, put it down. Card number 4, put it down. Card number 10, put it down, and then get 3 other cards. And then basically they skip a lot of chatting, of course, because I don't know. I haven't read I don't know about the tarot, and so I don't know what would happen, but basically she says, go out and find your father. And then, yeah, so that's basically what it'll be, and he'll go out, go out into the forest and find your father. So that's what he'll do. He'll go out into the forest and he will go through a lot of experiences to find his father. And that's what I work on next. I'm basically going to take next week. I'm not sure. It might be a very heavy study week or very heavy writing week. I know it's not going to be. So in my life, I've basically got three priorities. The first being screenwriting. Second being real life experience, because I want, a good basis. I want to have experienced life enough to have those, beautiful and negative experiences to be able to put into film. So I want to, I want to fall in love. I want to get my heart broken. I want to travel. I want to be in life-threatening situations. All that to serve, my filmmaking. And then, screenwriting, which is, links in with that, is priority number one, because I want to make fantastic movies. But yeah, so I'm not sure yet if this week will be a real life experience week or a very heavy studying week. I'm thinking studying week. But we'll see what goes on. But anyway, if you like this video, if you like what I have to say, if you want to, contact me and we can talk about symbolism and mythology and screenwriting and making, the greatest films ever made, please contact me. Please do. YouTube, it might take me a while. Sorry, I'm not as on it as I should be, but I should respond to you. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.